Hello, Las Vegas, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Golf at the Park, Angel Park's weekly interview show. You guys know by now how all of this works. I'm going to skip straight to the show. I'm excited today. We've got PJ Ballinger in for the show today.
How are you doing, Jed?
What's going on, PJ? PJ's got a golf history. He's born and raised in Las Vegas.
Born and raised here in Vegas.
So that's always fun when we have that on the show. And a long golf story, some time here at Angel Park that we're going to cover. He's in the UNLV PGM program right now, and so we're going to cover all of that. But just to start, like we always do, how'd you get introduced to the game of golf, PJ?
Ooh, that's a fun one. So I was first introduced probably 5 or 6 years old, visiting my grandparents at the time. My grandpa was a huge golfer, and just took me out to the range, and it wasn't really hooked or anything, but I'd go out to the range and go practice with him and everything after he'd got done playing his Sunday round of golf, because he'd play somewhere every Sunday back in California. And so that was kind of my first real experience with it. And then kind of growing up later years, 8, 9, 10, my dad and I would always take the day off of like school for my birthday, and we'd go play golf. And so that was kind of a cool experience into that. And then kind of getting into high school playing baseball. I didn't play much golf.
I was going to say, I knew you have a baseball background. So let's start touching on that, because that was your main interest.
Yeah. I was a baseball player long before, and I was a golfer. Started playing baseball from when I was 4 and all the way till my freshman year of college when I tore my labrum. It was a great experience, and something I'll definitely wouldn't trade anything for it, right? But yeah, it was like my primary focus. I was decent. Played pretty good in high school. Enough to
if
play
you made
in college
ball, sure, that means you were a good player.
Now, granted, it was the middle of nowhere, South Dakota, but still, that was my first true love. And so, kind of after I got hurt and everything, it was kind of, what do I do now? Can't really tear your labrum. You can't really throw too much anymore. It's actually kind of worse than Tommy John for a lot of people.
Oh, wow.
For baseball players. And so trying to find something that I could do after that was kind of a struggle. And so that's kind of where golf slotted in. Kind of picking back up the clubs and finding something competitive to drive myself in.
So early in your 20s?
Yeah, right around 19. It was honestly right before the pandemic hit. Played golf with a few friends, was coaching at the time, and we ended up making a trip up to Ogden, Utah with Brian Whitaker, who's an employee here.
Sure.
His brother, Barry, Vince Taramina, who I'm sure you remember.
Yep. We've had Vince on short piece content out here.
And then Jose Loza, another one of the high school baseball coaches, and my brother, Hunter.
All of you went?
Yeah, we were doing a baseball trip up in Ogden, Utah, because that's where we play every summer for Silverado. And we made a golf trip out of it as well. Whenever we weren't coaching, we were playing golf. And so we probably were there for 5 days, coached 7 games, and played golf 5 different rounds of golf.
How fun.
So that was the first real experience of
where you got hooked.
I got the bug. I get it now.
Yeah.
And so that was probably summer of 19.
And so at that point, you've got about 6 months before the pandemic, which shuts everything down except for golf there pretty quickly. And that booms. So tell us about that 6 months when you got the bug. Were you practicing a lot? Were you just playing a lot? How were you approaching the game?
I mean, I still kind of approach it the same way now. I just kind of play. I practice here and there, but I was going to school. I mean, I still am, but was going to school, working at a pizza place at the time. And so it was kind of, when can I find time off? And if I have time, with my buddies, let's go golfing. So before I really started here, I didn't really play a ton, maybe once or twice a month, but just trying to, get better and really just use that competitive drive I had in baseball and put it towards something.
Well, I don't know this story. How did you end up at Angel Park?
So this was back in January of 20, so again, right before the pandemic hit. And I was working at the pizza place, and I was like, I'm miserable here. I don't enjoy it. Wasn't fun. Wasn't for me. And Vince Taramina, who used to work here and went on my trip with, was like, "Hey, I'm leaving Angel Park." Like,
To go to the fire department.
well, no, this was actually when he was still doing stuff with UNLV baseball.
Oh, wow.
So he was going to be the full-time director of baseball operations at UNLV. And so he was leaving Angel Park, and he's like, "There's going to be an opening. Just, I'm sure I could talk to Josh and hopefully get you in here." And so that's kind of what happened. I applied over here, got the job.
So you took Vince's spot. That's cool.
Yeah.
I did not know
He
that.
kind of took Vince's spot, and that's kind of how I started over here. And then, working with Justin and everybody in the barn, Michael Harding, all them.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of where my career in golf started. Honestly, I had no desire to stay in golf at that point because I was like, it's just a job to get through college.
Right.
And just fell in love with it. So
That's cool. Let's. I don't want to jump around the timelines, but maybe we are a little bit. So I'm guessing since it was that recently, mid 19 and then 20. Now that's when TikTok starts to blow up, and I'm guessing most of these influencers kind of started maybe a year earlier. But how are you consuming your content, your golf content, in those times?
Let's see. Back in this would have been January of 2019 was when I first really kind of got hooked into golf content, if you will. Found Eric Anders Lang on a trip. It was just a random golf club, and he was doing a trip to Scotland, and found it on YouTube somehow because I was sick in my dorm in South Dakota.
There was just something to watch.
Had nothing else to do, so I was like, "Oh, this looks kind of cool," and watched his entire trip to Scotland, and then he did another one to Ireland, and then just kind of got down a rabbit hole. Well, fell into the Barstool guys, the Foreplay podcast, No Laying Up. Yeah, and just kind of.
So you got into podcasts.
Yeah,
and long form content on YouTube.
Oh, for sure.
Mostly to begin with.
That was kind of where I really picked up the influencer content, if you will. Just because it was something that I could listen to, just have on the background when I'm like studying for school or doing homework, or hey, you're driving for an hour, or you're hitting the cages playing baseball, stuff like that. And so that's kind of where I got into the podcast area and the kind of golf influencer area.
That's cool. Let's talk about Twitter a little bit. I've never understood how Twitter works from a business standpoint.
I think it's now called X, right?
Oh yes, it's called X now. But you are one of the ones. You have a group of guys, your brother and I think a coach that you guys played golf with or play golf with a lot, and you guys tend to be more active on Twitter than just about anybody that plays at Angel Park. Is there a reason for that, or is that? Why do you key in on that platform? Because is there a lot of golf content on that platform?
Yes and no. I consume quite a bit of golf content. Like if I were to scroll through my Twitter right now,
it's all going to be golf.
It's all golf. I'll get a baseball thing here and there because I'll follow baseball still with the playoffs going on right now. But a lot of it has turned into golf, like whether it's the professional scene or the amateur scene, stuff like that. And it's kind of funny how it circulates your life, right? I'm going to be honest. I think the reason we started kind of jumping on Twitter, at least like me and Brian, kind of like, hey, we're having fun out here. Let's, there are some people that like didn't like certain things or whatever, and so we're like, you know what, we don't care what they think. Let's, kind of like a big FU to them. Like, hey, we're having fun. We don't care what you think. This is our thing.
That's cool. I think everybody that gets interested in using their voice or creating content, it's just that they're having fun and they want to build their thing that it's a hobby, right? For most people, it just starts as a hobby, but people really get into it, and there's such a big community and space for it that I think it's interesting to explore that on all of these shows. So we're going to try to do that more and more. Well, let's talk a little bit about your relationship with your brother. I know you guys are close. I know he's a baseball player too.
Two brothers, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
why don't you tell us about them?
Well, so I'm the oldest in my family. It's, me and two other brothers. Hunter is the middle child. smartest of the three by far. Like, you want to make all the middle child jokes you want, but like he will by far and away make more money than I ever will, and most likely Brady, unless Brady ends up making it to the show, which is a good possibility. And my other brother's Brady. So Hunter's 20 and Brady's 18. He's currently a freshman at CSN playing baseball over there for the top 10 ranked team in the nation.
Great team
for junior college, and so he's doing well, and so yeah, it's kind of cool. Hunter got into golf again probably around the same time I did, and Brady pretty recently actually. He's still kind of hit or miss because he doesn't want to mess with his baseball swing too much, just because that's where it's at for him. But yeah, I mean, we have a pretty good relationship, having myself coached Brady for a bit throughout like summers and everything, just kind of when I have free time in baseball. And then Hunter and I mean, you name it, we've done it together. We play video games together. We golf together, like go out all the time. Like it's, we're brothers, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're both my built-in best friends. I'll give them crap. They'll give me crap. But as soon as somebody says something to them, like, oh no, that's not how this works.
Right.
Hey, I can say it, you can't. Like,
I love that.
So yeah, and that's just kind of how it is with us. We're pretty close, and I'm glad they're my family and everything.
That's so cool. And you're close with your coach too.
Yeah, Brian Whitaker. He's like a second dad to me. He's been a real like mentor in my life and everything. When it came to like when I played for him in high school baseball, just somebody that I could always look up to, go talk to if I ever needed anything. And we would just kind of have fun with it, right? And then turned into, once I went into college to play college baseball, he's like, hey, do you want to like help coach? And I was like, yeah, I'd be down. Like when I have time, absolutely. And so that's kind of how I got into like the baseball coaching side of things. But yeah, we just kept a good relationship throughout the years. And yeah, he's, like I said, the father figure to me.
That's awesome. So while we're on the people that are close to you, why don't you tell us a little bit about your better half, Maddie?
Oh, great. It's hilarious. So the way we met.
Well, she's a golfer. So
I'll get to that.
We didn't bury the lead.
So Mackenzie Hall, who I'm sure you'll have on here eventually, a golfer at UNLV. She's pretty good in her own right. And Maddie are teammates. They both play for the UNLV women's golf team. And Kenzie obviously still does frequent out here quite a bit. And so, you just get to know the regulars and everything, and started talking to her. And no joke, she walks into my office one day, just because, everybody knows her. We're all cool with her. And she's like, I have the perfect girl for you. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, sure, whatever.
So Mackenzie played Cupid.
Mackenzie played Cupid. And so I'm like, I'll listen to what you have to say, whatever, no big deal. And she's like, here, text her, tell her you want to go on a date. All right, whatever. So I texted her. Ended up going out on a date, and we've been together for over a year and a half since. But yeah, it's kind of crazy how that whole thing worked, and it's funny, right? Like do you guys get to play a lot of golf together? Here and there. A little tough with our schedules, just because I'm going to school full time and I'm working full time, and then she's going to school full time and going to be working full time here soon because she's doing her student teaching stuff because she's going to be an elementary education teacher. And then she has golf on top of it. So it's like the time that we actually get to spend with each other, it's like, I don't know if I really want to be at the golf course right now. But when we do get to play, it's fun. I mean, it's a cool thing when like my significant other plays golf. Not only does she play golf, she kicks my ass. I mean, I'm right around a 4 to a 3, and like for handicap wise, which is it's okay. Like I'm not terrible. I'm not great.
That's better than
right.
Than
like I'm better than a lot
percentage.
Amount of people.
Yes.
And I get my butt kicked by her. I mean, she's a +2 playing for a Division I team.
Right.
It's, 30th in the nation right now. Like
that's so funny.
Yeah.
And awesome.
But it's really cool because everyone's always like, oh, you don't want to golf with your significant other or that, and it's like, oh, she's kind of my best friend. I love spending time with her, and so being able to go golfing with her, right?
I love that.
But being able to spend time with her and everything's really really cool, and it's one of those where it's like, I don't have to like, hey, I'm stuck at the golf course or whatever. It's like, no, sometimes she's right there with me.
Yeah.
And so we're spending time together, and it's good. It's a good relationship. So
That's really cool. Tell us about your Angel Park journey, because you started just in the cart barn, but you actually advanced. So tell us about how your couple years at Angel Park went.
Angel Park. So it started in January of 20. Chuck, actually, it was Chuck and Josh were there.
Chuck
at the
was
time.
just on the show recently.
Yeah, Chuck. It's funny. He talks about, on his show, he talked about he doesn't feel like he deserves to get that Hall of Fame award because he just did his job. Well, yes and no. Like, he 100% like was a mentor to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
He helped out anybody who needed it. Whenever I needed a thing done or had a problem, I'd just go up and talk to Chuck. His door was always open. And then, end of the day, he'd always come down and stop by the cart bar and say hello, see how things were going, and that was the end of his day.
Yeah.
But it's like, I know a lot of head pros that wouldn't do that. And so having Chuck here for the first 6 to 8 months I was here was really beneficial to kind of see what, I don't want to call him like a good old boy, but like a good head pro would do, and someone who has a ton of experience.
Yeah, a lifer, purist. Yep,
for
just
sure.
The guy's identity is golf.
Yeah. And so having Chuck kind of establish that like ideal head pro for me was kind of cool. And then Alan obviously took over a little later, but right when Chuck kind of left and Alan took over, it's kind of right when I got promoted to the player service supervisor downstairs. We'd just gotten a new fleet of carts, and I did quite a bit of work trying to get everything done and everything. That was right when Jim was still relatively new because he started in March.
Yeah, he
so
started
it was like
March 1st
for him
of 20.
Yeah, so it was like month 4 for him or something right around there. And so obviously he thought I did a good job and was like, hey, like, Josh is kind of stepping up into the shop. Are you interested in this? And I was like, yeah, sure. Mind you, I would have been 20 at the time. It was right before my 21st birthday.
I remember finding out you were 21 and it freaking me out at first, honestly.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because I have quite a bit of leadership experience in the past, like an Eagle Scout. So working summer camp quite a bit during Boy Scouts and everything. Kind of just taking that like step up into the like leadership role. So it was just kind of second nature to me. It wasn't like anything special. Again, it was just me kind of doing my job, right?
Yeah.
And so Alan was all for it, and so was Jim. And so that's kind of how I stepped into the player service role here at Angel Park. And it probably took a few months to get everything like finalized, but I really started kind of doing the role, if you will, and kind of had the title later, probably in August maybe of 20. Yeah, so I mean, pretty quick turnaround time, but it was fun. I really enjoyed it. That's when I kind of realized like, hey, I could make a career out of this. This is something that I enjoy doing. Just because like you go to the golf course, right, and everybody who's there wants to be there. I don't know a single person who works at a golf course or goes to a golf course that really doesn't like being there. You can go find a job anywhere. You don't have to be at a golf course, but then to be at the golf course is a playing part of it. Like, I'm not going to go if I'm not going to want to be there. And everyone wants to be there. A bad day on the golf course is a million times better than like a good day at any other job.
Right.
Because I go talk to a slow group like, hey man, you're a little slow. Can you speed it up a little bit? No, obviously you have your bad days where, you're X amount over budget or this, that, or the other, but it's once in a couple months maybe. Ideally it doesn't happen at all, but like it's going to happen every once in a while, but you're not dealing with that every day. You're dealing with people who want to be there at every part of golf course here, whether it's private, public.
That's the best part of golf culture, is that everybody wants to be there. I use the analogy sometimes of a casino because I was a casino host for a couple of years, and I remember thinking, this is so great, everybody loves being here, but then you slowly start to realize that a lot of people don't like being here after a couple of days or after a bad weekend, and it's not always fun. And the thing about golf is, even if you have a bad day out there, people still want to be out here.
For sure.
They don't. They just, now it's just, when can I get out again to redeem the time that I didn't have a great time.
And it's almost an escape from reality. It's something that, like, when I'm playing, I try to not be on my phone. Everyone's so attached to their phones nowadays, and I don't blame them. I am too. Like, I'll hop on Twitter first thing when I get up in the morning. That's super unhealthy, but, like, that's just the habit I've gotten into. But when I'm on the golf course, it's, hey, man, how are you doing? Like, we're riding together. We're talking the entire time. We're talking about the shots, how's family, how's life. Like, I'm not worried about what happens when I'm playing golf.
I think that's great. And I think, to comment a little bit about the phones, I know that phones are a problem. I'm addicted just like everybody, but I think of it a little bit differently when you say the first thing you do is get up and get on Twitter, and that's unhealthy. 25 years ago, the first thing I did when I got up was read the sports page.
Yeah.
It's no different.
Yeah, no, 100%. Right. It's
you
the same
get up
thing.
and you want to consume whatever information you want. So people are going there for news. People are going there, whatever reason they're going there for. It's their part of their morning routine where they're catching up on the content that they want for the day. Right.
For sure.
And so I don't know. I look at that a little bit differently. Okay. So let's fast forward to November of 21. And
It's fun.
this is going to be fun. So PJ is kind of an integral part to Angel Park's vision and ideas that started in November of 21 about how we wanted to approach social media different than other golf courses. And I've explained my perspective on this. And I don't want to take the time up to do this. If you wanted to know that, it's in my episode from a few months ago. So just the quick backstory, and then I just want to hear what your remembrance and perspective is on it. But I'm coming out of a psychotic episode, and I'm my first day on new medicine back at work, where I am focused but still unstable, and I know what I want to do, and I'm very pressed to do it, and I don't know how to do it. And that's when you and I went from being friendly acquaintances to pretty good friends.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's see. It was a Wednesday. I remember that.
You remember the day?
Well, it was right after a meeting we had with Jim, because we always had our meetings
That's
on
true.
Wednesdays.
It was a Wednesday.
It was kind of funny because I think in that meeting we all kind of talked about it as a group, like a management group, right? And me being the 21-year-old in the group and everyone else is 30 plus, right? Like a little different perspective. And I guess kind of the crowd we were trying to draw were a lot more kids that were my age. And so I think the main thing, like, was, I mean, anybody could have done it, but like right place, right time for me. We were just talking about how I consume social media and how,
I needed a younger perspective on what I was trying to do but didn't know how to do it.
Right. And so I think the first day we were doing it, come out of the meeting, and I'm like, hey, I have an idea. We just got these new wedges in and new drivers for our rental sets. It was woods and wedges because they were the TSI woods and the SM8 wedges, I want to say. And I was like, this is something that if I were looking to book a golf trip, and I wanted to like see what rentals there were and everything, like this is something that'd be important to me. I know some places, I mean, here in town a little different, right? But a lot of places outside of Vegas and Phoenix, you go get rental sets, you're like, yeah, it's a mishmash of clubs. Like you got a Titleist like 7-iron, you have a Callaway pitching wedge. I mean, you have a Tommy Armour 8-iron from like years ago. So it's totally different. Yeah, it's completely different. And so I was like, this is something that I'd be looking at if I were trying to book a trip, and I'd check the social media page because I'm going to look at course conditions and everything. And so I was like, we should get a picture of the new rental sets and just get it like situated so that way people could kind of see what we have. And I remember doing this because it was like early November. So it was me, Noah, and one of our buddies, Brett. We're going to be taking a golf trip up to St. George later that day. And so I was trying to like get out of work a little early, trying to get up there and get going. So that way I do remember you
had to leave.
And so I was like in a rush trying to do it, but I'm like, hey, this is what we should do. We took a picture of it and kind of put it out there. And that was the start of it. And coming back from that trip, I remember we went up to your office and just kind of discussed a game plan on how.
You taught me about so many things. You taught me about stories and highlights and all of this was Instagram based. I had an idea.
And then we get locked out of the Instagram account.
Yes. And by the way, we were hacked a couple of months ago.
I remember
and that
seeing
was
that.
way worse than when I was locked out. Although
Yeah.
it was very similar.
Right.
I remember freaking out when we got locked out.
But yeah, and that was just the start of it. And it was like, hey, this is what I'm interested in. This is kind of.
Well, that's what I asked you mostly is I just wanted to know how you consumed it because I wanted to repeat that model. And so, yeah, you were the one who introduced me to Random Golf Club, which is why I went and introduced myself to Brett. And
That talk about two worlds like colliding and ended up working out like for the better.
it was kismet. Everything happened all in that from November to February of that season,
Right.
that winter. Mike, the video wizard, came in. Random Golf Club came in. I started making more connections.
Well, that's when you started talking to like Birdie Chain and all that, if I'm not
Yep,
mistaken. And
that's-
just like it all kind of in a span of what, 5 months?
It started to really coalesce in what we were trying to do, and so I've thanked him before, but I've told him since the beginning of the show I really wanted him on. So it took us 10 months, but we got you on. So that,
I mean,
that
I
was
gone
fun.
for 3 of them.
Well,
so.
yeah. Let's talk about why
talk
you
about
left
that?
Angel Park. Why
Okay.
don't we talk about why you left Angel Park?
So-
What did you go do?
Yeah, I was going to, at that point, it would have been March of 21 or 22. I was like, I really want to do this. I really want to be in golf. And so for me to do that, I was like, how can I prepare myself the best for a possible career in this? And kind of started doing some research. I was like, well, if I want to be anything, I should be a PGA professional.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the baseline of anything in
Go
the
through
golf
the
industry.
program.
Right.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, well, how do I become a PGA professional? And started looking it up. And I was like, well, I can do the intern, like the apprenticeship, which is now what's the associate route is what it's now called. But everybody that I talked to knew it as the apprenticeship because they were a little bit older, and that's what it was beforehand. Or you could do the university route, which is a bit of a newer route. The first program was Ferris State in the 70s, but everything else kind of blew up around like 2000, probably right when Tiger, came onto the scene and like blew up golf. And I was like on the PGA's website and saw UNLV had a program. I was like, oh, really? It's in my backyard. Let's take a look at it.
That's awesome.
And ended up working out. Like my best friend Noah is in school right now and does this exact same program. So it was kind of talking to him, talking to now really good friend Thomas, who does the World Long Drive stuff. Really good guy. And talking to both of them because they were both in the PGM program out here at Angel Park. Actually, we were playing around a golf just as friends and everything, and they're like, hey, you should really consider this if you're considering a career in golf. And so started doing my research and everything. Ended up going to an open house, and I was like, yeah, this is for me. Like, this is the place. And it ended up working out really well. I kind of wanted to do that, and so I couldn't necessarily work as full-time as that the player service supervisor kind of requires. Like, you got to be here for tournaments. You got to be here be able to cover for people when they call out sick, because that's going to happen, right? And so
Every job at Angel Park is a big job. There is no job at Angel Park that's small,
Right.
or light.
Yep. And so I was looking for something a little more, not necessarily like relaxed, right? But that would work around my school schedule. I mean, it's hard here. You have lights, right? Like, when you have lights, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. You can stay open till midnight. Well, I mean, I didn't want to necessarily commit to that just because I've tried it in the past and I'd focus on my job over school. And I'm like, no, I need to do school. And so that's kind of how the opportunity kind of arose for me down at Muni, the Las Vegas Golf Club. Ended up working out because they had an assistant that was leaving, and I kind of was like, hey, I'm familiar with this. I kind of know what I'm doing. Like, I'd love to kind of apply and everything. And so applied, got the job. Ended up being a good spot for me because it moved from outside service to working into the golf shop, and kind of learning the whole assistant pro life, and a little easier hours. You open at sunrise, leave an hour before sunset or whatever. Like, you're not here till 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
And so it ended up just being beneficial for me to kind of do that with school. And that's kind of why I left Angel Park. I mean, had I not needed to do that, I'd probably still be doing what I was doing, right? I enjoyed it. I really liked the crew we had, and it was fun. But, obviously stuff changes, and for the better, probably for me, right? Going to school at part of the best hospitality program in the world at UNLV, which is awesome. It's what the PGM program is at UNLV, and just kind of stepped into UNLV and was like, all right, I'm going to apply myself. And I was the freshman rep last year for my class, and I'm now the treasurer of the PGMSA program, the Student Association program. And so just trying to apply myself and get into as much stuff as I can to learn what I can. That's kind of just how I've been taking every single thing in life.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how I got the supervisor job, in all honesty.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So how much longer do you have? You've got a year and a half invested?
Yeah, so this is my third semester out of 7. So 2 years left, and 4 semesters left, 2 years. And with each of those, like part of the PGM program, we have to do 16 months of internship, and that's just anywhere we want to go. If you want to go to Cypress Point, you can go there. If you want to go,
is that what you did this summer?
Yeah, so that's why I was down in Flagstaff.
Right.
So if you want to go to literally anywhere, you can pretty much go. If you want to go to Sabonic out on Long Island, hey, we had a dude intern out there 2 years ago. And so the opportunities that are like not necessarily given, you have to earn them, right? Because you still have to interview for the job, you still have to do all that sort of stuff. But the opportunities that you can get through the PGM program at UNLV is by far the best. Because I was down at Forest Highlands this summer, and that's a place down in Flagstaff, Arizona, really similar to this property, actually.
Super nice place. Tell us about Forest Highlands.
Well, I'm actually wearing the shirt and the hat.
Nice.
Not
representing.
Yeah, a little bit. Really cool spot because it's a 36-hole facility. And that's, coming from Angel Park, right? Roots kind of established here. I want a place that I can go out and have at least 36 holes at my, not necessarily disposal, but to operate
options.
On. Yeah, like if I want to go play golf after work, it's a lot easier when there's 2 different 18-hole courses to play.
Yes, it is.
Right? And so that's something that I credit Angel Park to is like, I want to find something like that. For each of my internships from here on out, that's probably what I'm going to do. Right? Now, when I'm necessarily a head pro and there's a lot more going on, I don't know if I'm going to want that like particularly, but for the time being, I am.
Yeah. Be
able to learn a lot more too. And so really cool property. It's, like I said, Flagstaff, Arizona. It's at like 7,000 feet elevation, so you hit the ball a mile. It's really fun. 2 courses, the Canyon and the Meadow, both designed by Tom Weiskopf. And then Canyon was Weiskopf and, why am I forgetting the other one? Well, it's going to bug me.
I should know it too.
Moorish, there we go. Jay Moorish. And just a really cool spot. Matt Bailey is the director of golf down there. He's been there for almost 18 years now. So he kind of knows his stuff and he's been around. A lot of people down in Arizona know him and he knows them. And so it's kind of a cool like connection spot and everything. But yeah, it was a really cool time down there and spent all summer down there, which worked out really well.
That's fun. That's so fun. Let's talk about some things that you might change about golf or that you don't like about golf necessarily.
What might I change about golf? Well, pants suck, right? Like
shorts.
Yeah.
The loosening of the dress code to shorts.
For sure. Especially, like, if you're Augusta National, but do whatever you want. You can, like, hey, if you have to wear black pants and a white shirt, sure, no one's gonna say a word, right? But like, I don't know, you get to some places and it's like, let's make it feel a little more enjoyable, make it feel more welcome. And I think like Cloud9 is a great job for something like that because, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you can kind of you want to go out in shorts and a t-shirt, you can kind of do that.
Oh,
there.
yeah.
And it's the place to do it because you're out there having fun.
Yeah.
It's a little like par 3 course that you don't have to worry about the old marshal, like, hey, you got to speed up. Like,
right. Yeah.
And so like, that's something that I think golf has a really bad stigma of is that super like a snotty, like rich man sport. And it's really not. Like, I think the more you break down and get into actual, like talking to golf people and everything, it's like, hey, we're out here to have fun. Let's have fun. Like golf stuff can be super expensive. The apparel and everything. Like,
Expense comes up a lot when we have this part of the show.
yeah, and so I think that's probably another issue that is with that whole like loosening of the like dress code and like I said, it's different at each course, but hey, like you can do the same. I can play golf the same in a $300 jacket that I could in a $15 like
Right.
sweatshirt from Walmart.
Yeah.
And I think you kind of see that starting to become that way on the PGA Tour now. I mean,
Well, Live Golf definitely introduced it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like you wear shorts whenever you want out there.
Why don't
That's-
you
I
talk
think that's
about
great.
Why don't you talk about Live and the Ryder Cup just happened? Let's talk about Live and the Ryder Cup and fun golf stuff.
All right, so Liv. I think Liv is doing a great job for the sport. I think that say what you want, good, bad, or indifferent about the like
blood
Saudi
money,
Arabians,
sure.
right? Like their human rights record.
Leave
horrible.
that out of the discussion.
Right, but they're doing a really good job. I think they are changing the game. I think people are going to enjoy it a little bit more, especially kids from like my era. You go out to the range, you're hearing them play music. They're having fun. Like they're not super worried about stuff.
It's way more common to find someone playing music. Like the people who don't play with music are in the minority now.
For sure. I mean, look at like Bushnell. How they've made a killing off of their wingman. It's a speaker.
Yeah.
It's a $120 speaker, but it's a speaker at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like, and everybody has them because it's like, oh, you got to have this. So like, yeah, music is a huge part of golf. And so I think Liv doing that's been really good. The Ryder Cup, I mean, the U.S. lost, so that sucks.
I mean,
spoilers, sorry.
Lost is a word.
Yeah, you can't. You go over there in the first session and you look at everything that the U.S. has done in the Ryder Cups in Europe in the last 30 years. They haven't won one in 30 years, right? Their foursomes sessions have been absolutely atrocious. They won one session in foursomes this last Ryder Cup. It's like, well, there's 8 points right there that you're losing 7 of them.
Yep.
Let's say you have 2, so you get 2, they get 6. It's like, well, you got to get to 14.5 points. Like there's a big discrepancy there. So you got to either sweep 4-ball, which is again hard to do, or win your singles matches, which playing in Europe as an American, like it's gonna be hard, man. They're gonna rag you. They're gonna talk crap. They're gonna cheer for you when your ball goes in the water, and they're gonna be like, "Ha, you suck."
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the same thing's gonna happen to the Europeans here, but like, at least they've won over here in the last 30 years. The U.S. hasn't. So I think seeing something change within the U.S. structure, I think at least on the European side of it, because they can't seem to get off the bus, in my opinion, within the first like day to day and a half. I mean, they got
That's an interesting take. I haven't heard that from that perspective yet. That's cool.
I mean, you think about it like when you're playing every other sport, playing football, the first quarter matters. Like, yeah, the end of the game is what really, like, that's where it's just decided. But, the Patriots coming back, 28-7 or 28-3, right?
Yeah.
Or 27-3, whatever it was, back in the Super Bowl was outrageous because that, like, had never happened before. Well, that's an outlier. That's not the common occurrence.
Right.
9 times out of 10, the Falcons are going to win that Super Bowl.
Yep.
So let's do the same thing in golf. You start down. I think the U.S. won 0 matches in the foursomes, and like they went 0-4, and they got a 1.5 in the 4-ball the first day. Well, I mean, you're putting yourself behind the 8-ball. You get a 1.5, and they get 6.5 points. Like,
yeah,
they have to get 8 more. They have to get 8 more points to win the Ryder Cup after the first day. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I think finding a way to get off the bus, and obviously like I have no room to kind of talk about this except for the fact that I've played other sports, but like, yeah, you got to get off the bus, man. You got to find a way to show up when it matters. And
I think there's also a really interesting point about the difference in sports culture. Soccer is the biggest sport over there, but in a golfer's mind, in a golf world, golf is an individual sport, and the Europeans, because it's a team structured event, they just seem to be better teammates.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they have a rich history in the Ryder Cup. And not to say that the U.S. doesn't, but they really kind of don't. You look at the U.S.'s best players in the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, you got to go
Tiger
back
Woods,
to
it's not Phil Mickelson.
The 70s and the 80s.
Yeah, you're looking at guys like Jack and Arnie, which are great. I mean, Jack was like a 500 player in the Ryder Cup, which is fine, but your best players in the U.S. aren't their best players in the Ryder Cup. You look back at the last, I think, 3 Ryder Cups in the Europe. And the U.S.'s top 2 qualifiers, so there's 24 matches that they played. The U.S. top 2, like, points getters. So last year it was Scotty, Wyndham Clark. The year before that it was DJ and Brooks. And then the year before that, or the Ryder Cup before that, like obviously all in Europe, it would have been Ricky and Bubba. Take a guess how many points out of 24 matches they won. Take a guess how many they actually won.
Was it less than 5?
It was less than 5. So your top getters, and you take it back to like Tiger's era. I'm sure Tiger's the same way, but like that's something that I think just needs to change. Like your top guys need to show up.
I can't believe you had all those numbers off the top of your head.
They got 3 points in 24 like matches played. 3.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. You look at what needs to change. That needs to change. You look at the U.S., they have no history versus Europe. I mean, Seve's a god. Say what you like. Jose Maria. I think Europe uses their Ryder Cup as a like let's say this right here is the Ryder Cup history. Every single person on Europe's team knows this. They know what like, they could give you every single detail.
Yeah.
The U.S. just doesn't have that.
Right.
It's like the
That's
U.S.
a good analogy.
Yeah, and so I think they need to find something that changes that. You look at like Max Homa. I think Max Homa will do a good job at that. I mean, the dude went 3-1-1 in this Ryder Cup. It was only a match that he lost. He played 5 matches, which is crazy to begin with. But the only match he lost was in a 4-ball or foursomes with Brian Harman, who was apparently sick at the time. So it's like,
wow.
Dude, that's insane. Like that's for a rookie Ryder Cup guy, that's pretty good. Like start with him. Let's whatever he does, like let's try to figure it out and try to make it not necessarily put everybody in that mold, but find out what drives him and find out what drives like Scotty, find out what drives Brooks, find out what drives everybody. And let's utilize that. Let's make it so that way we actually have some history and something that people look forward to. You look at guys like right now on the SNGA and they look up to those guys. So let's have them start with the history now and start building stuff now. So that way when the kids that are playing junior golf and SNGA, AGA, AJGA, like any of those sort of things, like so they have something to look forward to.
Right.
And I think that's something that the U.S. needs to start doing and just doing a better job at it. I think that the assistant captains have stayed the same for far too long. And so having them kind of cycle out eventually probably be a good idea. I'm going to be honest, everybody loves Tiger. I do too. I don't think he's the answer. You look at his Ryder Cup record, it's not good. You put him and Phil together and they've lost almost every match they played together. So it's like, okay, Tiger's probably not the answer. Let's look at somebody who is. Let's look at what's the guy out of Boston's name? He won a U.S. Open a few years back. Oh, this is going to bug me. Anyway.
I don't know.
I know. Super, like, he's invested in the Ryder Cup. He was like the 13th man left out on this last Ryder Cup team. I think he'd be a good spot to start. He cares. Justin Thomas, he cares. Jordan Spieth seems to care. Max Homa, they care.
Yeah.
Let's build off of that. Let's get everyone else involved and let's get them to where we have kids looking up to it. You look at like the junior Ryder Cup team, they got destroyed. The Americans did. That team's pretty good too. So like, what happened there? So I think it's just a whole cultural thing that needs to change inside of the Ryder Cup, like as a whole for the U.S. side.
That's fascinating. From the perspective and mind of a coach, that was obvious. You talked earlier about getting away from everything on the golf course and through golf. And the couple of times mental health has come up on the show, it continues to kind of come up. And I think that phrase in and of itself is kind of tied to that. Have you ever thought of it that way? Have you ever thought that more than even getting away from something, it can be therapeutic? It can
For
be
sure.
a form of therapy.
It gets you away from life. Whatever happens on the golf course, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. We're not performing brain surgery out here. We're not doing anything. Like when this last week, right, my grandma had to go to the hospital, had something come up with her throat, ended up being A-okay. But for the time being, like, I was stressed. My whole family was.
Sure.
You can kind of get out on the golf course and escape that. And not that I don't care, right, about my grandma, but it's like, hey, I have a lot going on right now. I just need a break. And that's what golf provides. And people who don't realize that or don't utilize that, like, I feel bad for him because it's something that you can definitely do and get away from just the world. Especially if you're doing it with your friends, right? Like, if I'm going out there with my best friend and we're just playing golf, hey, I can play a match against you and I don't have to worry about anything else besides our match.
Right.
And so I think golf is super therapeutic. And especially, I think that's why we saw a boom during COVID, was because that was one of the things you could do. Instead of being pent up in a house with your family the entire time, like, not that I don't love my family, but, like, it can get old.
Adrian brought it up in his episode. Shout out, Adrian, that he took the time with the pandemic and golf as much for his mental and emotional health as he did for physical health.
For sure.
Yeah. Which is fascinating and so neat and inspiring. It's just awesome. I love that.
Yeah, you look at, like, the news and everything's all bad and gloomy. You get on the golf course, it's A-okay.
Yeah.
You got green grass ahead of you. You're playing golf.
Yep.
How much worse?
What else you got to? Yeah. All right. Easiest question of the day. What's your favorite thing about golf? What do you love about golf?
It's not the easiest question of the day.
I think I realized right when I said that that's not what it is.
I had the Ryder Cup stuff set up.
Yeah, you dialed it in.
So,
I'm glad I brought it up. I was just going to talk about Live, and then I threw in Ryder Cup. So that wasn't even planned.
Yeah,
you were prepared.
Yeah, I have my mind set on that. I think the best part my favorite part about golf is that you can. Like, golf isn't this one thing that, like, it's this. It's not this, like, everybody sees it as this, right? You do accounting, for example. It's this or it's wrong. It's, you look at other stuff like that. It's this or it's wrong. Golf, it's like, dude, my swing can be completely different than yours, and we're still out there. We're still having a good time.
And the game can mean different things to you.
100%. And, like, I could go out there and when I'm playing golf, I want to break par when I play. It's my goal. Let's say for someone else, for example, their goal is to break 100.
Right.
I could go out there and shoot 74, and he could go out there and shoot a 95. Two totally different meanings. I'm not happy with my round, but I'm not, like, disgusted with it. And he's loving life.
Right.
And it's two totally different things. We both just had, like, let's say we played together. We both just had the same exact, like, not the same experience, but similar.
It's individual
things.
and universal.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, which is crazy because it is that way. It is that way even down to your head game. It's different for everybody, but everyone has their. It's as big a part of the game as your swing is your head,
for sure.
And so everybody shares that experience, but it's also very individualized.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I definitely enjoy, and like I said, I can go out there with my brothers, and it mean a whole different thing than when I'm going out there, like, trying to beat my best friend. Like, not that my brothers are my best friend, but, like, trying to beat Noah playing golf. Because, like, we're like this, we're super competitive, and, like, I want to beat you, and I want the bragging rights. Versus, like, when I'm out there with my brothers, who Brady's like a beginner. I don't really care what happens. I'm just out there having fun with him.
Yeah.
Like.
Yep.
So it can mean anything depending on what you want it to do.
What it's all about. I love that. That's going to bring us to the end of the first segment of the show. The second segment is where we play a par 5 and we ask the same questions every week. PJ's watched this show a lot, so I didn't have to prep him on any of these. But are you ready?
I have good answers, but let's do it.
All right. Yeah. What's your favorite golf movie?
Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
I guess. Like, I haven't seen Caddyshack.
You haven't seen Caddyshack?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I've never seen the full movie. I can't find it anywhere on a streaming service. So, like, everyone's like, you need to see Caddyshack. You need to see Caddyshack. And I'm like, I can't find it anywhere.
Oh, it's not on a streaming service?
Not that I've been able to find.
That's
You look
insane.
it up and it's like, oh, it's on HBO. I go to HBO. Not there. It's like, oh, it's now on Hulu. Not on Hulu. It's like, yo, wait. Like, I don't, like...
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of been a running joke for me for the last, like, 2.5, 3 years now. Like, hey, I still haven't seen Caddyshack, guys. Like, So yeah, probably Happy Gilmore just because I've seen it.
Yeah.
Either that or The Greatest Game Ever Played. That's another good one.
That one comes up a lot. Yep, that one comes up a lot. Shot number two. What's your favorite club in your bag and why?
None of them.
That's the first time we've gotten that answer. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Like, okay, my pitching wedge is always really good. So, like, my pitching wedge is probably, like, if I have a shot that I'm like, I need to do this, it's, like, my go-to inside of, and I can kind of, I can choke down on it, make it fly a little less, or, like, give it a little bit more juice and get it to go a little bit. So whenever there's kind of an uncomfy, like, number, I have to carry a bunker from, like, 100 and anywhere from like 135 to like 115. It's kind of like my go-to in that sense. Like, it's a super large number, but it's kind of just the go-to club, I guess. You know, it's not Chuck's putter or, you know, anything like that. But that's probably it. My driver's been treating me like shit lately, so that sucks. And the putter is so hit or miss that it's like, and it's all me. It's not the actual putter. But yeah, probably the pitching wedge.
Yeah, that's a good answer. We get a lot of wedges.
Yeah.
Question number 3, what's your dream foursome? So you're going to go play golf. You get to pick any 3 people, alive or dead, to come play with you. Who are you picking and where are you going to play?
3's not enough.
Yeah, most people say that. Or they ask for qualifiers, like no close friends or no family, because they don't want to prioritize.
I mean, like,
we can cut that out.
no, it's like my grandpa, right? I'd love to be able to play golf with him. I never really did. He passed away when I was 13 before I really got into golf. So it's something like I'd love to be able to go play golf with him. Dream foursome, though, I don't know if I'm necessarily love your gramps, but like, I don't know if I'm putting you in there. So I'll probably just take out friends and family.
Well, let's start with where you would go. Maybe that'll help you with
go?
the other 3 choices.
It's also not easy. Augusta's the obvious answer. I don't necessarily like that just because I don't know. I have a take on where if I do a good job throughout my career, I'll be able to play Augusta eventually. I'll build enough connections and everything to where I'll be able to play it. So I don't know if that's necessarily like the unrealistic answer. Probably the old course at St. Andrews.
Yeah.
That would be a really cool place to play. Either that or like Pinehurst number 2. I would say the people I'd play with, Donald Ross would probably be up there. Really into golf course design. So, and I like a lot of his courses. So having him up there would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, Tiger could work you around the old course like nobody's business and tell you how it's laid out and everything would be cool. I think everybody picks Tiger, though, so I'm like, let's make it unique. Alistair McKenzie would be really cool, another golf course designer. And then, probably Abe Lincoln.
Abe Lincoln is fantastic. Why?
Why not? I mean, like, one of the best presidents of the United States ever, if not the best. Like, he's up there,
Arguably,
right?
for sure.
So, I mean, he did a lot for the country. Kind of a history nerd. I would love to just be able to sit there and talk to him the entire time, and just see how life was different, right? Like, we get our news instantaneously nowadays.
Yeah.
How did they deal with it back in the 1860s?
Yeah.
What was life like?
Completely foreign.
You know, and not only that, but like, as somebody who is like interested in like leadership and seeing that, how do you deal with a country in one of the hardest times it's probably ever faced, realistically? I mean, we literally were split into 2 different nations. And so over a topic that you look at it nowadays, like, how did that even ever happen, right? Like, how do you fathom that? But how do you deal with that as a leader? And not only that, but for him to end up dying, like, because of that whole thing, it's kind of like, I don't want to say cool, but it's really interesting,
Yeah.
right? And just trying to get his perspective on that would be really cool.
I think, well, I know you're the only person that's picked 3 different people that you just want to pick their brains. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
More than playing golf with them, you just want to go spend 4 hours with them on a golf course.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing is like yeah, we're gonna play golf, and like golf is another, back to your why is golf the greatest thing? Like what's your favorite thing about golf? Because you can do that and not worry about the golf ever.
Yeah.
You can go out there and like, yeah, I'll hit a few shots here and there and not worry about what I actually do.
Right.
So I think
because
that
the
would
company.
be,
Yeah. That's so awesome. Shot number 4. What's your aiming fluid when you're out on the golf course? What's in the golf cart that you're imbibing?
Gatorade. When I'm playing golf, it's a Gatorade. I might have a alcoholic beverage once in a while. I'm not a huge fan of like going to get like blackout drunk on the course or stuff like that. But
Do you find that it helps or hurts you?
Hurts for sure.
Okay, so that's one of the reasons.
Yeah,
that you
I
temper
don't think it's very like like I said, it might be a beer or two, but like that's about it. I'm not only that, but like I really enjoy playing golf. So it's like if I'm gonna be not necessarily like incapacitated, but like of that nature,
right? You feel like you missed some of it.
Yeah, it's like I can go do that at a bar. I can go at my house, watch golf on TV, and do that. I'm not going to spend, especially like if you're playing somewhere. I'm not going to spend $80 to $100 if it's somewhere nice, and plus if you're playing somewhere really nice to go not remember a lot of it. So that's kind of my like thoughts on that.
That's great. Being as competitive as you are, and baseball's no different. Question number 5, the last question of the show. How do you deal with your anger on the golf course? Do you have you thrown a club? Have you snapped a club? Have you embarrassed yourself? What's your
go-to?
Yeah, what do you standard do on bad shots?
Well, I don't throw clubs. I've thrown 3 clubs ever, and I've played 300 plus rounds of golf.
Yeah.
So
and they were all early too, I'm guessing, right? You haven't thrown a club in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
It was, I think the last time I threw a club would have been, it might have been like November 22. So it's been almost a year at this point. And it was a dumb mistake. Like as soon as I did it, I'm like, why did I do that? Super bad for me. I get in my head a lot. So like, I'll say some nasty things in my head.
And to yourself, is it self-deprecating?
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah.
It's
so it's all internalized. I'll let out like a, I'm good to say it, right? I know actually,
people,
no, we had to change. That's why we had to change it. Actually, go ahead and say it and I'll bleep it.
You fat. That's what comes out. Yeah. So like, that's the only thing that I'll ever really say on the golf course. That's like self-deprecating out loud. A lot of it's internal, which is super unhealthy for me, but
sure.
I don't like releasing that because I've played with a few people before that they'll F-bomb this, all sorts of like cuss words and you're just like, man, this isn't fun to play with this guy.
Right.
And so I don't appreciate when people do that. So I don't want to put other people in that situation.
We've had that answer more than a couple times.
Just because it's not fun. So
yeah, nobody likes to play with that guy is a good reason to try your best to not be that guy.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I've had such a good time, PJ. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
For sure.
Thank you so much.
I will say I'll have to come back on year or two when I have more down the road.
Yes, more stuff to talk about. We're already starting to cycle in. We haven't begun yet, but we are going to start doing repeats. We're going to shoot for once a month, having a guest on for the second time. So yeah, this time next year will probably be right around the time where we'd look to have you back, buddy.
Cool.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching. We will see you next week. And until next time, hit 'em straight from your friends at Angel Park Golf Club. Cheers.